ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Ramakrishna, the Great Master, which is also called Lila Prasanga, written by none other than the great direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, that is Swami Shardanandaji Maharaj. So now, in the last class, we were seeing into the different aspect of our Ramakrishna's life, how he would take up the difficult situation in his life when he got the death of his own relative, close relative Akshay Kumar. How could Ramakrishna withstand that sorrow? So how could the knowledge of the Vedanta, which he had realized in Samadhi, could help him to undergo that pain? So all these are a lesson to us so that we can learn. So we can see Ramakrishna bringing in so many characters, so many different type of natured people, keeping with him, he himself facing all those difficulties. And then through that, he will be giving us a wonderful lesson. The ceaseless flow of time with its waves of adversity and prosperity, happiness and misery, union and separation, life and death, brought the world gradually to the year BE 1278, that is Anno Domini AD 1871. Now we can see a man of perfection, a man who has realized God, how does he react to the situation in life? Now, for example, when Arjuna asked Lord Krishna, Sthita Pragnasya ka bhasha samadhi stasya keshava sthitidehi kim prabhasheta kimat sita vrajeta kim. How does a man of perfection, steady wisdom, behave when he's confronted with different types of adversities, happiness? So we can see now Ramakrishna, the Avatar Purusha, himself getting the samadhi and becoming perfect man of complete wisdom. And then the ceaseless flow of time with its waves of adversity and prosperity. You can see all the dualities of life in all its colors, in all its intensities, is being faced by Sri Ramakrishna, but that will not affect him in any way. It comes and goes, but a man of steady wisdom, how does he react? How does he behave? How does he be working through that? So that will become a model for us, for all other beings who have not realized God. Until we realize God, we need some support to float ourselves in this ocean of transmigratory existence. So now the dealings of Sri Ramakrishna, the way he's behaving in this world will be a help for us. You can take that as an example. For that, all those things were the end products. After the realization of God, how does he take all these difficulties and pleasures in his stride? So that will be a model for us to behave and undergo all these difficulties. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is also undergoing all these adversities, waves of adversities and prosperity, all the dualities, happiness and misery, union and separation, life and death. So everything is coming to Sri Ramakrishna. So now, even after God realization, all these things is coming, but it cannot touch him now. It doesn't disturb him now. Why? Because he has realized the highest. He has seen everything, what is true, what is untrue. In Vedanta, the beautiful example of the snake and the farmer is given. In the twilight hours, when the farmer is returning back to the village, to his house, on the way, he saw a snake lying down on the way. He was very much perturbed because if he goes near, that may attack him and kill him. So the farmer went round that snake, left that immediate way, went to the bushes and other place where there was no road, crossed it, then went to the house. When he reached the house, he thought of, suppose if the snake is there, and if somebody else, other farmers come, and now it will be too dark. When I came, it was twilight. Then they may not see the snake, they may get bitten by the snake. So he took a stick and also a lamp for more light and went back to that place so that he can either chase away that poisonous animal or whatever, take out that adversity from that place. But with the light and the stick, when he approached very near to that snake, to his surprise, he saw that was not a snake, it was a rope lying down in such a way that it looked as if it was a snake. So, what was the cause? The cause was because of the twilight. It is neither darkness nor complete light. So, we mistake many things during that twilight. That's why this whole world is neither complete true nor untrue. It's a mixture. That is called Ajnana or Maya. You don't have the complete light of Atman or Parabrahman to guide you. At the same time, you are not completely ignorant or there is no darkness. So in this twilight, this whole world looks something else, though the truth is something else. So that's why we get into trouble. We see all the dualities, we see all the problems, fear, so many other things are there because of the twilight of knowledge. There it was a twilight of light. Here it is a twilight of knowledge. Not complete knowledge, not complete darkness. So that's why we see this world. We see this world as a world with all its different attractions. But when you get complete light of knowledge, consciousness, then you will be seeing everything as God. The same thing, what you see here, will look like God. So when you realize God, when you realize your Atman, then you will be seeing these dualities. This different world with its varieties can be seen, but it cannot affect you because you have already got the knowledge of Atman or Paramatman. Just like the farmer, after he went with the blazing light of the lamp which he had taken, he could see that it was a rope, not a snake. So the next day, too, in the twilight, he was coming in the same path and he saw the snake there. But this time, he didn't get afraid or anxious or he didn't run away. He didn't fear for his life because he had the knowledge yesterday with the lamp that it is not a snake but it is a rope. Likewise, when the person who has realized God and see the felicity of this world, so it is God itself, the whole world, the whole created universe is nothing but God. But it looks like this world with all its varieties, happiness and sorrow, success and defeats, and all these varieties, adversity and prosperity, then union, separation, all these things, they create mixed feelings in you. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are sorrowful, so much of dejection, then suddenly there is so much of inspiration. So all this because you have not seen the reality. But once you see the reality, then the world will be something different for you. So with the light shed by the Avatar Purusha who has seen both, now even Divine Mother has placed Sri Ramakrishna at the threshold. He can constantly see the Paramatma Swarupa or the full blazing light of Parabrahman. Also at the same time, he can be touched with this world. So he's sitting on the threshold, the Bhava Mukha. So he is in complete knowledge of both the worlds. That's why he can give us the truth. So his behavior, his way of reacting or responding to the varieties and vagaries of the world will set as an example how we can behave, how we can take the example. So now the ceaseless flow of time with its waves of adversity and prosperity, happiness and misery, union and separation, life and death brought the world gradually to the year AD 1871 in the relationship of Mathur with the master, deepening through the years, reached its 15th year. The month of Vaishaka and Jyeshtha had run their course, and Ashada too had been half submerged into the abyss of past. When Mathur became bedridden with fever, rising rapidly, the fever turned into a complicated and continuous type. And in a week, Mathur lost his power of speech. The master knew beforehand that Mathur's vow of devotion was now at its end, and that the mother was about to take her devotees into her bosom very soon. Therefore, although he used to send Hriday daily to see Mathur, he himself never went to see him even once. The last day came and Mathur was taken to Kalighat. The master did not send even Hriday that day, but remained in deep ecstasy, that is samadhi, in the afternoon for 2 or 3 hours. His body lay at Dakshineshwar while he went in a celestial body along a path of light to Mathur, his devotee, and helped him attain the goal, the fulfillment of life. He personally made him attain to the sphere to which one is eligible only by great accumulation of merits. So now you can see what is grace. How can the Lord's grace work in our life? So where is the place? What is the self-effort and what is the place of grace of the Guru and grace of the Lord Ishtadevata? So now Mathur had so much of desires. Mathur, because of all the karmas which he had done in so many, accumulated in so many lives, he had to get the disease and now give up the body in that pain. But now, because of the service rendered to the Guru and his Ishtadevata, so service in such a way, very better way, whatever he had done, could reduce all the pain. And now, personally, Sri Ramakrishna himself, the great Avatar Purusha, went in his celestial body in the path of that light luminosity. He went to his devotee, that is Mathur. So that day he didn't send Hriday to go and see him physically, but Sri Ramakrishna in ecstasy remained in deep ecstasy in the afternoon for 2 or 3 hours. Now his body lay at Dakshineshwar while Sri Ramakrishna himself went to the house of Mathur. Himself went to the house of Mathur in the celestial body along a path of light, his devotee, and helped him attain the goal, the fulfillment of his life. What is the fulfillment of his life? Getting that higher abode, reaching the abode of Divine Mother, who was his Ishtadevata. So, getting liberated from this body and pain, he personally made him attain to the sphere. Personally, Sri Ramakrishna made him attain to the sphere, the world, the Devi Loka. So, Ramakrishna personally took him, made him cross this world of transmigratory existence, this ocean of pain, the samsara. So he took him to that loka, the sphere. Ramakrishna personally did it. So Ramakrishna went there. He helped his devotee and helped him attain the goal, the fulfillment of his life. He personally made him attain to the sphere to which one is eligible only by if you do great accumulation of merits, punya, shatakoti, punya sukritaihi, brahma shatantarepi. So the Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Shankaracharya tells, you can get liberation only by Shatakoti Punya of Brahma Shatantara. So 100 lives of Brahma, one life of Brahma is 2000 Chatur Yuga, 2000 into some millions and millions of years. So that is one life of Brahma. Such 100 years means, see, one day of Brahma is 2000 Chatur Yugas. One Chatur Yuga is so many million years. And that is one day. And such 1 year contains 365 days. And the life of Brahma contains 100 such years. So if we accumulate only punya for this 100 Brahma Shatantara, then we can get liberation, that is Paripurna Brahma Gnana, complete liberation. If you put in the self-effort, so much of self-effort. That is what Shankaracharya is telling in Viveka Chudamani. But when you have the grace of God, by your devotion, if you want only by punya, your own self-effort, then you have to put in so much of self-effort. But if you take recourse to devotion, surrender at the feet of the Lord, supplicate to Him, then the Lord, out of His grace, can reduce all those things. The grace of Guru, the grace of Ishtadevata can reduce all those number of years. That's why you can see Sri Ramakrishna, because of his loving service of Mathur, he personally made him attain to the spheres, to the higher loka, the Satya Loka, to which one, a normal jiva, a living being, is eligible only by great accumulation of merits. Brahma Shatantarepi. So much of punya, only punya, not even a little papa. Only so much of punya should be there accumulated. Then you may get that complete mukti. But here, Sri Ramakrishna personally went to Mathur. He made him personally attain to the sphere to which one is eligible only by great accumulation of merits. So, what is the lesson to us? The lesson is, if we do the work of the Master, Ramakrishna has come as an avatar Purusha to this world to do benefit to all the jivas to get liberation. So all the work which Sri Ramakrishna introduced amongst us in this world in the form of the Ramakrishna mission, the mission of Sri Ramakrishna. What was the mission of Sri Ramakrishna? To liberate people, to give them the highest gnana, to remove the sufferings of the people. So in that, he could have done alone, but he wants us also join in that mission, in that work, to liberate people, to help people, to attain liberation, to do good to the world, to do good to all the living beings. So in the process of participating in that good work, helping people, serving the children of the Lord, helping in the mission, then we too will be blessed and we will get liberated through it. So we will become a part of the mission of Sri Ramakrishna to liberate people. So is it not wonderful? Then it is the bounden duty of Sri Ramakrishna to come and liberate us too at the time of death. And it will become a chance for us to receive the grace of that great avatar Purusha. So he will personally come as Holy Mother has promised. If you take up the ideal which Sri Ramakrishna stands for, if you take the mantra diksha from the tradition, and if you participate in the work, in the mission of Sri Ramakrishna, then Mother Sharda Devi promises that Ramakrishna will personally come. If you do take the whatever japa has been taken, if you do regularly, and you can get peace and Jivan Mukti Avastha in this life itself. But for so many reasons, we have so much of desire for enjoyment, we neglect the japa, we don't do proper japa, we do once in a while. Even then, the Guru, the Ishtadevata Ramakrishna is responsible for your liberation. So, at least at the time of our last day, the death, he comes holding the light, catching hold of our hands. He will personally take us to the sphere, the higher sphere, the Satyaloka, and give us eternal peace, whatever we want. So that can be seen here. As I told you, Mother has promised anybody taking Mantra Diksha will get this wonderful experience at the time of death. But if you do it properly, do the japa every day, as Holy Mother has told, at least for 10,000 to 15,000 times a day, then you can get peace and you can start getting the effect of the japa in this very life itself. So let us start doing that japa we have received in the mantra diksha every day, 10 to 15,000 times, and you can see you will get that liberation even now, this moment in this life. You can get all those beautiful experiences. But if we don't do, if we neglect, okay, even then we may suffer, we may have so many mixed experiences in this life, but at the time of death, without fail, the Lord will come and take us by our hands and make us reach that higher goal, that is mukti, or that higher spheres. So you can see what is happening to Mathur. Ramakrishna went in the celestial body in ecstasy along the path of light to Mathur, his devotee, and helped him attain the goal, the fulfillment of his life. He personally, Ramakrishna personally made him attain to the sphere to which one is eligible only by great accumulation of merits. So whatever we would get it by infinite number of infinite punya, but by just the grace you can get that. So the Ishtadevita did it to Mathur, and we can also participating in the mission, in the work of Sri Ramakrishna. What is his mission? To liberate the jivas, jiva dukkha asahishnum. What does in the dhyana mantra, in the meditation mantra of Ramakrishna, it is told, he could not withstand the pain and the suffering of the living beings. So he took a human body. Vitaritum, he came down to this earth. Vitaritum avatiranam, he came down to this world to distribute. Vitaritum avatiranam, gnana, knowledge, bhakti, devotion, prashantihi, great infinite peace of mind. So jiva dukkha asahishnu. So that's why he has come and is struggling to help people, doing so much to help us liberate, taking up all the weaknesses of the human being and showing a model and ideal so that we can also do that. So let us also participate in that mission of the Lord. And not only we will be trying to help all other people, bring in all the people to that teaching and principle so that they can also do sadhana and get love towards God and go to the higher spheres, get liberation, not only in this life, but permanently, eternally, we will get that higher spheres. So we will be blessed by that and we will receive the grace of the great Avatar Purusha. Now we are going to the next chapter. What is that beautiful chapter? It's a very special chapter, the worship of Shodashi. So now we know that in few more days we are going to celebrate Navaratri, the worship of Divine Mother. And wonderfully well, here also in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we are seeing the worship of Mother, Divine Mother, that is Raja Rajeshwari or Shodashi or Lalita Parameshwari, inviting her into the body of Mother Sharda Devi. Generally, during Navaratri, what do? We invoke Divine Mother in the ghata, in the kalasha, in that pot, sacred pot, and worship her. And also we invoke and worship her in the image, beautifully done. We all know that in the image of Mother Durga. But here, Sri Ramakrishna himself invoked the same highest Godhead, Raja Rajeshwari, or Shodashi, or whatever, Divine Mother, into the body of Sri Mother Sharda Devi as an image and made her permanently live there in that body. And she also participated in this wonderful Leela in the sports. So that worship of Divine Mother Sharda Devi. Now, in few more days, we are going to worship Divine Mother in the form of the image of Durga. But Ramakrishna is we are all going now to see the worship of the Divine Mother, Raja Rajeshwari or Shodashi, in the body of Mother Sharda Devi. So is it something, it's not a coincidence. It's something special that we are participating in the worship of Shodashi at the time of the Navaratri. So now Mathur had passed away, but the tenor of the life at the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar went on as before. Days and months passed and the year 1872 arrived. There happened a special event in the master's life at that time. We must now turn our attention to the house of master's father-in-law in the village of Jairam Bhati. So original name is Jayaramavati. So it's called now as Jairam Bhati. In order to understand the series of events leading to it, when the master went with the Bhairavi Brahmani and Hriday to Kamarpukur, his native village, in 1867, The woman relatives, as we mentioned before, had his wife brought there to Kamarpukur. That was in reality the first occasion when the Holy Mother Sharda Devi met her husband. Why? Because she had met during the time of marriage and also maybe some more times earlier. But then she was a very small girl. So she couldn't understand what is this marriage, what is this husband, what is this wife. But now Mother Sharda Devi has come up to the age of 14, where she could understand what is meant by wife, husband, what is meant by marriage, and all those things. So now we can feel that this may be the first visit or proper visit of Sri Ramakrishna or Mother Sharda Devi meeting each other. That was in reality the first occasion when the Holy Mother Sharda Devi met her husband. Anyone who has had the opportunity of comparing the young girls of towns like Calcutta with those of the villages like Kamarpukur will have noticed that the bodies and minds of town bred girls become developed at an earlier age than those of village girls. In villages, girls of 14 and sometimes 15 or 16 do not have the physical signs of their youth fully developed. Their minds also, like their bodies, develop late. This healthy feature in village bred girls is perhaps because they have not got to live they have not got to live in small places cribbed and cabined like birds confined in cages in the city or town. They live in a natural environment. They are breathing pure, unpolluted air in the village and roaming about freely in that village atmosphere. So the they are free, just like free birds. So much of freedom, so much of happiness. So the childhood lingers on, it goes on. They will not be exposed to the vagaries of the city life. So their growth is slow. The Holy Mother, therefore, was very young when, at the age of 14, she met her husband in a real sense for the first time. Her powers of understanding the profound ideal and responsibility of married life were just at the point of unfolding themselves. At that time, the pure girl was delighted, experiencing an indescribable celestial bliss in having the divine company of Sri Ramakrishna and in enjoying his selfless love and attention uncorrupted by corporeal consideration. So, corporeal means bodily considerations. So, the mind was uncorrupted by the bodily consideration. On many occasions, she used to describe that delight of hers to the woman devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, saying, "My heart was incessantly full of an indescribable bliss, and I felt always since then as if a jar of bliss, a pot or jar of bliss, full to overflowing, was installed in my heart." After meeting Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharda Devi used to tell all the devotees later on that after meeting Sri Ramakrishna, as if Sri Ramakrishna has placed in my heart a jar of bliss. I always felt, Sharda Devi used to tell, since then, after meeting Sri Ramakrishna, as if a jar of bliss full to the overflowing was installed in my heart. That is why, after meeting Sri Ramakrishna, my heart was incessantly full of an indescribable bliss. When, after a few months, Sri Ramakrishna returned to Calcutta from Kamarpukur, the girl too went back to her father's home, feeling at heart that she was in possession of an infinite wealth of bliss. That feeling of delight produced a change in all her conduct, speech, movement, and work. But it is doubtful whether people in general could notice it, for it made her calm and not fickle, thoughtful and not pert, selfless and not self seeking, and above all by removing from her heart the feeling of all kinds of wants. So that in completeness, the feeling of want, all that thing was removed after the meeting with Sri Ramakrishna. So you can see now the effect of satsanga, the company of great people, how changes can happen. What all happened in Mother Sharda Devi after meeting Sri Ramakrishna. So, what is that? That feeling of delight produced a change in all her conduct, speech, movement, and work. And but people could, the outer people may not have noticed it. It is doubtful whether people in general could notice it, for it made her calm and not fickle, thoughtful and not pert, selfless and not self seeking, and above all by removing from her heart the feeling of all kinds of wants. It made her infinitely sympathetic. So, what are all the good things you get by holy company? By progressing forward in spiritual life? When you are progressing forward in spiritual life, what is the yardstick to measure? What are the symptoms you can feel? Now you can see all that felt by Srimada Sharda Devi. We can also take it as a cue in our life whether we are progressing forward spiritually. And what are they? By removing from her heart the feeling of all kinds of wants, it made her infinitely sympathetic to the sorrows and miseries of humanity, converting her by degrees into an embodiment of compassion itself. So, it made her infinitely sympathetic to the sorrows and miseries of humanity, converting her by degrees into an embodiment of compassion itself. On account of the influence of this joy, even endless physical sufferings, so you have to note it again, on account of the influence of this joy, which was placed like a pot of bliss in the heart of Holy Mother Sharda Devi by Sri Ramakrishna, even endless sufferings, physical sufferings, so much of physical sufferings and the worldly adversities, all the difficulties in the life now appeared to her to be of no consequence. And she felt no pain at all, even if her care and affection for others were not returned. So, all the difficulties were there. So much of adversity of life, pain and pleasure, everything was there. But now that could not touch her. Why? Because of that bliss, spot of bliss, that incessant, full of indescribable bliss placed in her heart by the arrival of Sri Ramakrishna in the life of Mother Sharda Devi. So, wonderful changes, you can note it. This is to be noted. What happens? So, we should also get it. That is the result which we have to get. If we are going somewhere else, then we are going on the wrong direction. So, what is to happen? After coming in contact with the great Guru, the great saints, and coming in contact with the principle and the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna, what is to happen? So, that which has to happen is, which is happening in Mother Sharda Devi. So, what is that? It made her calm and not fickle. So, after coming into contact with the life of Sri Ramakrishna, what is to happen in us? It should make us calm. It will make us calm. And all that fickle mindedness will go away. and we become thoughtful, and all that pertness will go away. Then we become selfless. That is, the selfishness will be removed. We become more and more unselfish, selfless, and not self seeking. And above all, very, very important thing. So, what did Mother Sharda Devi feel? Infinitely sympathetic. So, we also become very sympathetic and compassionate. Not only sympathy, but empathy, empathetic. That is converted into action to serve people and remove their sufferings. So, that is empathy. Sympathy is just at the thought level. So, when that sympathy starts coming to the action level, then that is empathy, empathetic. So, she became infinitely sympathetic by coming into contact with Sri Ramakrishna and getting that bliss. Mother Sharda Devi became infinitely sympathetic to the sorrows and miseries of the humanity, converting her by degrees into an embodiment of compassion itself. She became an embodiment of compassion. So that should also happen in us. We should become magnanimous in our life. That should convert us from this selfish attitude to the unselfish mode and become infinitely sympathetic towards all the living beings, trying to help as much as possible to alleviate the sufferings of all humanity. So that could be seen in Mother Sharda Devi because of the contact of Sri Ramakrishna. So converting her by degrees into an embodiment of compassion itself on account of the influence of this indescribable joy which was kept in her heart by Sri Ramakrishna. What happened? On account of the influence of this joy, even endless physical sufferings, there may be physical pain, sufferings, diseases. So, even endless physical sufferings now appear to her to be of no consequence at all. Even the worst of the sufferings, the pain of the body, of the mind, and everything became a thing of no consequence at all. It would not trouble her at all. Is it not a surprise? No, that is a reality that will happen if we take the proper ideal, the principle, the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and start putting into practice in our life, then automatically this will happen in us. So, what will happen? Even endless physical suffering will now appear to us of no consequence, and we will feel no pain at all, even if somebody or anybody do not care or show affection to us when we help others. If they don't return it, if they don't tell thanks, if nobody even cares for us, we will not be bothered at all. Now we feel that infinite bliss in us, so that can remove all wants, that can remove all sufferings. So that is what we are all trying. So take that ideal, the principle of this great avatar Purusha, and start practicing it in your life. And we also will be benefited with all these things. Thus, content with the barest physical necessities. So, with even the basic minimum things available in your life, you can be always blissful and happy. So, even with bare minimum things in your life, you can still be the joyful person, the highest person of joy. So you could see that happening in Mother Sharda Devi. Thus, content with the barest physical necessity. In Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Maharshi's Yoga Sutra, the Raja Yoga, we get a term in the Yama and Niyama, that is Santosha, contentment. So whether externally there may be heat or cold, pain or pleasure, happiness or sorrow, success or failures, whatever. But that person who is a yogi, who is going forward in spiritual life, will be always contented with whatever God has brought to him. That is called santosha, contentment. So that you could see happening in Mother Sharda Devi. Why? Because taking up the principle, the ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. So Ramakrishna placed that joy in her heart. indescribable, infinite joy flowing out to the brim, overflowing joy. So what happens? Even with bare minimum things, nothing outside, you may get no facilities, no outer enjoyments, but still you'll be in a state of high bliss. So that will also happen to us if you take and start being a part of the mission of Sri Ramakrishna. What is that mission? It is not just an organization and that particular name or a sect, but it is the principle for which Sri Ramakrishna stood for. It is the ideal for which Sri Ramakrishna stood for. That's why nowhere Swami Vivekananda, when he went to the West, he preached Sri Ramakrishna as a person, but he preached Sri Ramakrishna. Never did he mention the name of Sri Ramakrishna. He would preach always Sri Ramakrishna as a principle for the teaching, what he stood for. And automatically people will come search who is the person who has lived this principle. So that we will take it as an example and also we try to live that life. So you see, when he wrote the Arati for Sri Ramakrishna, in that you cannot find Sri Ramakrishna's name, Khandana Bhavabandhana or Om Hrim Ritam, and all that prayers which we see Swami Vivekananda writing them, there is no name of Sri Ramakrishna at all. It is the ideal of a perfect man. But if you compare, all that will be corroborated with Sri Ramakrishna's life. So we have to not just simply take Sri Ramakrishna as the Ishtadevata, the form, the mantra, but his ideal, his principle, his teachings, putting that into our life, practicing that in our life, that is very, very important. So here, Mother Sharda Devi is doing that and she's getting all those things. What is the result? You can see the result. Now, thus content with the barest physical necessities. She Sharda Devi, while living at Kamapukur after Sri Ramakrishna giving his body in Mahasamadhi, she had to leave. She had very small plot of land in Kamarpukur. Nobody would come and help her. No relatives came to her help. She lived all alone. She used to plow herself the land, till the land, sow the seeds, a little paddy, then husk that paddy herself. All through the year she had to survive with that little paddy and some greens, spinach grown there in that field herself. And then no salt, no seasoning, no spices to season her food. Even she didn't have money to buy salt. So with whatever little paddy she grew, with whatever spinach and other things she grew herself, she used to boil that. And would she get electricity or would she get the gas stove or anything? No. She had to collect the firewood herself and cook herself, grow herself. But she was always in bliss. So bare minimum necessity, facility, which she was getting. And we always complain and fight with people that we don't have this thing, that thing, electricity, that, this facility, we don't have this facility. So we go on complaining and complaining. God has not given this, those people. Our father and mother has not provided this to us. Our husband has not provided. The wife has not done this. The children are not looking after us properly. The world is, nobody is helping us. The government is not doing properly. Those ministers are corrupt. They are eating all those things. They are not doing this properly. So what? The world is always like that. Never a day the world was bereft of all these problems. It was always there. But what is that to us? So even with the barest minimum facility, Mother Sharda Devi was in bliss, in joy. As I told you, only little paddy. All through the year, whatever she has grown herself, tilling the land, sowing the land like a farmer. No bullock cart, no plowing machine. There may be that plow, that's all. She herself has to plow. She herself has to sow the seed, grow the rice, then cut the paddy, husk that paddy, wait, dry it, everything done by Mother Sharda Devi in that small plot of land. And while going some green spinach, some roots, not even salt to season, and any small spice to season it. No salt even, let alone the spices is far away. But she was happy, no problem, no want, no physical this thing at all. Why? The bliss which Sri Ramakrishna placed in her heart, indescribable bliss. So now, if you start practicing, come into the contact with the satsanga of that great avatar Purusha, we can also survive whatever may be pandemic, whatever may be the difficulty, whatever may be the fear of death, you can be still in bliss. So you can see Mother Sharda Devi, what happened to her? She was content with the barest physical necessities and lost in herself. The girl lived then in her father's house only physically, her mind dwelling far away at Dakshineshwar at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. So now she also, Mother Sharda Devi also shows us what is ideal householder's life or how to be an ideal wife. So just like Sri Ramakrishna has set his example of ideal husband, ideal father, ideal mother, ideal son to the mother and father, ideal brother, ideal friend, everything. So many ideals Sri Ramakrishna set in his life. Likewise, Mother Sharda Devi is setting so many examples. So she's showing us how to be an ideal wife. So always thinking about the welfare of her husband, master, seeing the spiritual ideal in her husband. So Sri Mother Sharda Devi remained patient, thinking all the while. So her mind was at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. Although a strong desire arose now and then in her mind to go to him and see him, she controlled it and remained patient, thinking all the while that he who graciously loved her so much at her first meeting with him could never forget her and would surely call her to him at the proper time. Thus passed days one after another, and the girl, firm in her faith, waited that auspicious day to come to Sri Ramakrishna and start serving him. For long years passed one after another, but the strong current of hope and longing kept on flowing uniformly in the girl's mind. Her body, however, did not continue in the same state as her mind, but changing daily, shaped itself into that of a young woman of 18 by the year 1872. Although the bliss due to her first meeting with her godlike husband kept her high above daily pain and pleasure, even that was not free from intrusions of a hostile and unsympathetic world. So, as usual, the external world was hostile and unsympathetic. So it will be so to everybody. For in their gossip, people always gossip. They enjoy this. That's called Vishayananda. There are so many bliss or joy. Just like if you take food, that is also Vishayananda. You enjoy food, different kinds of food. Bhojanananda. So like that, all these Vishayas, spreading rumor, talking ill of others, Paraninda, Paracharcha, speaking about so many other people, the sins they have committed, all those things, you get joy in it. What kind of joy? It is called Vishayananda, the joy of sense, objects and senses. So it is but natural people who don't have higher joys of spirituality, they will find joy in these gossips, spreading rumors, calumnies, backbiting, criticism. So it's common for people, worldly people. So for in their gossip, the people, the village people and all others, The menfolk of the village made cutting remarks saying that her husband, Sri Ramakrishna, was mad, and that casting away even his wearing apparel and Genevieve, the sacred thread, he roamed about naked, repeating Hari, Hari, the name of the Lord. He was taking the name of the Lord like a madman. And the woman of her age alluded to her. So they started calling her Mother Sharda Devi. They named her also. The nickname was given as the madman's wife, and looked upon her as an object of pity or contempt. So many people you can see, especially the women folk, and also men folk will do in the guise of showing sympathy. It will be externally clouded like they are sympathizing or showing sympathy and doing good to you. But internally, it is not so. Their desire is to hurt you, prick you with a painful thought. Out externally, oh, shame, it should have not happened. Oh, pity on that girl, pity on that boy, pity on that person, it should have not happened. Internally, they will be very, very happy, jealous. It should have happened. That's good. Externally, they will be showing so much of sympathy. It is covered by that. So even the women folk of Jairambati started calling Mother Sharda Devi as the madman's wife and looked upon her as an object of pity or contempt. She was now, Mother Sharda Devi was much pained at heart by all this, but she withstood. So many pains are coming, so many troubles. Many people are, both men and women of the village, are treating her with pity and contempt and criticizing her, calling her by names and ill-treating her, but that would not disturb her. She withstood everything with joy because Sri Ramakrishna has placed that bliss spot of joy, indescribable joy in her heart. So nothing could disturb her. But when she heard them talking about her husband, she would feel very much pained. She was much pained at heart by all this, but said nothing. Though absorbed in the thought of Sri Ramakrishna, she sometimes yielded to doubts because we are also human beings. We will have the weaknesses. Doubts will crop up in our mind. Likewise, sometimes she was much pained at heart by all this and said nothing, though absorbed in the thought of Master, sometimes yielded to doubts. Is he then not the same person as I saw before? Is my husband Sri Ramakrishna the saintly person, the godly person, not the same as before? Why are people talking like this? Is he not the same as I saw before? Has such a change as people say really come upon him? If by the decree of providence it has actually happened, I must no longer be here, then where should I be? I must be by his side and serving him. If he is now in trouble, if my husband has become like this and the people are talking about, then this is not the place where I should be. I should be by his side and serving him. I should be helping him. I must be by his side and serve him. She reflected a great deal and came to the conclusion that she should personally go to Dakshineshwar and have all her doubts cleared in the light of the facts and do as the circumstances demanded. Now, if I go to Dakshineshwar and meet him, then everything will be clear. People are talking so many things, they're spreading rumors, they're telling so many things. Let them tell. But I myself can go there and see what is the reality. If he's well and good, that's wonderful, I'll be happy with him. But if he's really having some disease or problems, then I will be by his side, serving him. I can be helping him. So that's my duty as a wife. So I should do that. So either way, if I go there and meet my husband in Dakshineshwar, then I can be with him and the doubts will be cleared if he's healthy and everything is well. But if he has some problems as the people are spreading the rumor, then I can be with him and help him remove his sufferings. That is the ideal of a wife. That is a duty of the wife. So that's what the thoughts are going on in Mother Sharda Devi. So Mother Sharda Devi has undergone so much of sufferings and problems. So all these things should awaken us when we are in this world. We do not know, unknowingly we get habituated. We have been trained in our house by our parents, will be trained by our neighbors, and it will become as if we are not committing any wrong things at all. So we'll be criticizing, we'll be telling so many things about so many people, simply criticizing, talking ill of others, spreading rumors, finding faults. So now we can see if that could affect, if that could pain the Divine Mother Sharda Devi, who had the bliss in her heart, which Sri Ramakrishna has kept, even if that is causing her pain in spite of that and troubling her, then what would be in ordinary living beings who do not have that joy? How much pain will you be creating? How much sin will you be committing? When you criticize, when you speak ill of others, when you find fault with others, so should we not be careful? So when we study this in the example of life of Mother Sharda Devi, should we be not careful when we speak of others? What do we speak of others? How do we speak of others? Do we criticize others? Do we spread rumors? Are we finding faults? Then what will happen? What is the sin we are accruing by all these things? So Mother Sharda Devi in the later life, especially at the fag end of her life, when a devotee of hers came and asked her mother, you were with us all the time. Earlier, Sri Ramakrishna was there with us all the time to console us in time of difficulty. But you are also going away. So what is going to happen to us? What will happen to us? Where will we go for peace and consolation? Then the last teaching of Mother Sharda Devi, out of all the experience of her life, so all the accumulated experience of the life of Mother Sharda Devi is coming out in the form of the last teaching. When the devotee asked, Mother, what will happen to us? You are also going away. You are giving us consolation. Sri Ramakrishna used to do that before. Now you are also going away, leaving us. So how can we withstand that your separation? So what was the last and the final and the best crux of her teaching? The essence of the whole life of Mother Sharda Devi is given in that last teaching. What is that? My dear child, if you want peace of mind, please don't find fault with others. You may think it is an ordinary teaching. No. As I told you, it is the essence of the whole life of Mother Sharda Devi. The highest Vedantic dictum, highest essence of practical Vedanta. How to put Vedanta into practice. What is that? What is Vedanta teaching us? To get eternal peace, permanent peace. That is long lasting, not long lasting, permanently lasting, removing all our wants and sufferings. All the tapatraya is removed. That is the aim of Vedanta. Now, that aim, that highest teaching of Vedanta is given by Mother Sharda Devi in this one teaching. What is that? It's so practical, so simple. My dear child, if you want peace of mind, see the thing, if is there, you want peace of mind. If you don't want peace of mind, continue with the same style of living, find fault with others, spread rumors, calumny, everything. But if you want peace of mind, then what is to be done? Mother Sharda Devi tells, don't find fault with others. Then she proceeds to tell, if you are really having the tendency to find fault, you yourself have so much of fault in you. You can analyze, turn back, face yourself, and try to correct all those defects in you. Don't find fault in others, but rather see so many faults are there in you. Try to correct them. It is not to just find fault and keep quiet in yourself too, but try to rectify them. So this is the first part of the teaching, the beautiful, most teaching, the most practical Vedantic dictum. But the second part, you can see Vedanta clearly there. What is that? My dear child, nobody is a stranger in this world. Nobody is a stranger in this world. That means how that nobody is a stranger? Most of the people, other than we know, are all strangers. How can nobody be a stranger in this world? Because in everybody, the same Lord Narayana or Shiva or Durga or Paramatma Swarupa, Parabrahma resides, lives. The same Atman or Paramatman or God or Shiva or Narayana or Durga or Ganesha, whatever, that same Lord who exists in your own heart, within closest, nearest, the real father and mother, that Lord who is residing in you reside in all the living beings. So how can they be strangers? Nobody is a stranger. They are all your own. The whole world is your own. Nobody is a stranger. This were the beautiful teaching of Holy Mother. So the whole world is your own. You have to make the whole world your own. Why? Because in spirit, in Atman, in God, we are all one. It's the same Lord who exists in everybody. So to make it clear, the positive aspect, I will tell that story which I always tell. But before that, yesterday too, we discussed about that. In the Bhagavad Gita class, I discussed about Lord Krishna telling that wonderful verse, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodat Bhavati Smriti Vipramaha Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. That is the step-by-step process by which Krishna is telling Arjuna how, if you neglect the thought level, at the level of the thought, smaller thought, if you just neglect, then how it can become a very big danger and destroy you. So it tells Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. If you dwell your mind on the sense objects, the world, the external world, and people, the sense objects, the people and the objects, then what does it happen? It gradually, after again and again repeating that, dwelling, your mind dwelling on that sense objects, it developed a sense of fancy, then into attachment, thinking that without those things in your life, it will not be full. You are empty, you are incomplete. So you want to possess it. The moment you possess that sense object, then you want to enjoy it. So it becomes, desire becomes intense, that is kamaha. So when that thought becomes of that Vishaya Vastu becomes very strong into the form of kama, when there is obstruction to that, then you get angry. Krodho vijayate, it springs up, it wells up. Just like volcanic eruption, when there is an obstruction, that comes to the extent of intense desire, kamaha, when there is obstruction, somebody or something stops it, you get angry. So you came to know why you get angry. Then suppose your desire is fulfilled, will the mind keep quiet? No. It wants much more. You want to enjoy more. So more sense objects it want, the person, the people, and the objects it want more and more. The more you fulfill the desire, the more the kama is satiated, the more you get desire. So that is the cause of lobha. What is lobha? Greed. So first, if it is unfulfilled, it brings you anger. Krodha is a great fire which will destroy you and everybody. But if it is fulfilled, then it leads to lobha, that is greed. So a series of downfalls will be there. Then because of the krodha, because of the anger, what happens? Because you are angry now, come up to that level, just a small thought on dwell, you allowed it to dwell on the sense objects. Where did it come up to? To anger. Then what if that comes? It is the anger is just like a tempest, it's like a hurricane or a tornado. So suppose there is a storm, sandstorm. What happens? You cannot know what is there in front of you, whether it is a tree, whether it is a small plant or any pole or anything, you cannot. So now you get confused. Because when you get to the level of anger, it is just like a storm, you get confused. Smriti vibhramaha. So when you get krodha, dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha, then sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho vijayate, krodhat bhavati smriti vibhramaha. So delusion creeps in. You get confused. So smriti bhramshat, what happens? Buddhinasho. So you lose memory of the great teachings given by your elders, the gurus, the scriptures. Everything is forgotten because you are confused now, bewildered. Then when you lose the memory of all the good teachings and everything learnt in your life, so your buddhi, intellect will not start functioning. Buddhinashat pranashyati. Then you take wrong decisions in your life, you do wrong things in your life, then it will lead to destruction. So there, ayataha vishayan pumsaha. So dwelling on the sense objects, it is not only at the physical level, but even in your mind, you have enjoyed so many things. So if you dwell, so even finding fault, seeing wrong things in others, spreading calumny, spreading rumors, backbiting, all these things are also dwelling, thought neglected at the mind level. So you are at the mind level, you are thinking of those things. So what happens? So Mother Sharda Devi tells, when you speak ill of others, when you find fault, then you have to bring down your mind to the level of that mistake, the sin committed. So your mind will become impure. You have to raise your mind instead of up to the higher level, you will be bringing it to the lower level, sense object level. Then when you think of the sin, when you think of the wrong things, the sinful activity done by those people before criticizing, then you have to commit that sin, that wrong thing, that faulty thing in your mind. You'll be committing that. So you are accruing the sin yourself. So one who speak ill of others, one who find fault in others, one who spread calumny, you will think that you are not doing that. You have become so habituated again and repeatedly doing that. You think that that becomes a natural tendency in you. So you think you are perfect. You are not doing any wrong. If you analyze, you will come to know how much of fault finding you are doing, how much of rumors you are spreading, how much of calumny you are spreading. So you are committing that sin again in your mind. At the thought level, you are dwelling on those Vishayavastu, Vishayananda. You are enjoying that. So you are committing the sin again. So the saying is in the scriptures, and especially in India, they tell, if you speak ill of others, if you find fault, if you spread calumny, you will get the sin. You have to share the sin of the people who have committed it. You might have not committed that sin. Somebody else might have committed. By criticizing, by speaking it to others, by spreading calumny, by spreading rumors, you will be sharing that sin for yourself. Why? I told you what Mother Sharda Devi told. To bring down your mind to that level, then you have to commit that sin in your mind of that papa, then you'll be in trouble. So you have to be very, very careful. So yesterday in the Gita class, I told the story of the great Ramana Maharshi, the great saint in Tamil Nadu, Tiruvannamalai, who lived there, one of the realized soul, Gnani. They tell he was the avatar Purusha of Subramanya. So he tells the story about this, that great saint, the Avatar Purusha of Subramania. He tells the story of another saint in Tamil Nadu. His name is Pakannar. So the Pakannar, the saint had a sister, younger sister. She was a widow. She had this nature of finding fault, spreading rumors, calumny, speaking ill of others, so that spreading news, news mongering, rumor mongering was there in that sister. She used to be always seeing here and there what happened to them, what happened to this, speaking about that. So one day she told, Brother, did you know that neighbor of ours, that Brahmana, is having illicit relationship with his own daughter? Immediately that saint told, Shantam Papam, Shantam Papam. Shiva Shiva, Shiva Shiva, Rama Rama. What have you done? You are the 100th person to mention that sin of that person, Brahmana. And you are the last person to eat away all complete sin of what that Brahmana had committed now. What happened? What happened, my dear brother? I didn't do any sin. How can I eat the sin of the Brahmana? Yes, by speaking ill of others, by spreading the sin which they have committed, you will get the sin of those people. The saint told, the realized Pakana told. How is that? How is that? Okay, I'll tell the life story of that Brahmana. What happened? That Brahmana, father, he was a very great devotee. He would never eat his food every day without bringing a saint and feeding them. Any godly person or a monk or a sadhu or a saintly person, he would never eat without feeding them. So he had followed that all through his life. And he had a widowed daughter. She was also helping him in that. So now one day he bought, searched everywhere and bought a saint to feed him. But by chance, that great person, that saint whom he bought, was a realized soul. But got this Brahmagnana, realized soul. So after feeding him nicely, he asked him, Oh, my dear sir, what is waiting for me? What will be my condition after my death? What will I get? Then that saint, who was a realized soul, went into meditation and found out he could see the past and future and everything. He told, mountain of leeches, blood-sucking leeches are waiting in the other loka after your death to suck your blood. He was flabbergasted, he was taken aback. How can that be? Sir, I have done only good things. I've never committed any sins. I'm doing only good things all my life. How can that be? Yes, I will tell you what happened in a minute. Months back, you had bought a realized soul, a Brahma Gnani, and you fed him. So while you are feeding or while you are cooking for him, a blood-sucking leech which was going on the roof, it fell into the cooking pot and it got cooked, and you fed that to the saint unknowingly. So the saint consumed that even without knowing him. He consumed that leech. So whatever we offer, whatever you offer to a realized soul, whatever you offer to God or a realized soul, Guru or saint, it will come back to you thousandfolds. If it is good, it will come back to you thousandfold. If it is bad, it will come back to you thousandfold. So be careful when you offer it to a realized soul, a saintly person, or God, it will come back to you thousandfold. If you do good, if you give good, it will come back to you thousandfold. So now you fed him that blood-sucking leech. Now, because of that, thousands of blood-sucking leeches are waiting to suck your blood. What shall I do, sir? It was unintentional, without knowing. So whether you do it without knowing or with knowing, suppose you fall to a water body, a river or something, without knowing or with knowing, with the knowledge to fall into it, or somebody pushes you, the result is the same. You will get drenched, you will get the bath. So likewise, if you commit sin without knowing or with knowing, the result is the same. You will get the sin. So what is the way out, sir? Yes, that is the reason. Because you have done so much of good punya. You have been doing so much anadana, the charity of food, giving to all the saints every day without fail. And because of that punya, the Lord has sent me to give you the remedy. Oh, wonderfully, felt very happy. Then what's the remedy, sir? So when people start speaking ill of you, when people start sharing the sins you have committed, they start speaking ill of you, they will be taking away all your sins. So act to the outer world, act fiend, act to the outer world as if you have illicit relationship with your daughter. Then when 100% speak about that amongst themselves or spreading the news, then all your sins which this mountain of blood-sucking leeches eating you or sucking you, all that sins will be eaten off by all those 100 people. Then okay, as the realized soul tell, he behaved in that way. People started in the village and everywhere started criticizing. So happy to criticize, so happy to find fault in others. They started criticizing. Oh, that Brahmana is like this. Oh, this Brahmana has done that. Oh, he has done that. So happy to spread news. So wonderful joy you get. And now Pakanar, the saint, told you were the 100th person to speak ill of him, and you have eaten all the sins committed by that person. There's a story told by none other than the great Dani, Ramana Maharshi. So be careful while criticizing others, speaking ill of others. Without committing the sin, you are sharing the sin. What a pity, what a sorry state of affairs. Without committing the sin, by simply criticizing and speaking ill of others, spreading calumny, rumors, talking ill of others, just go and watch yourself while you're talking with others. Nothing comes out, no word of God, just speaking ill of others. Paraninda, paracharcha, paraninda, paracharcha. So each time you're committing the sin, so you have to be careful. That is the negative aspect. The positive aspect of that thing you can see in the life of Mother Sharda Devi. What is the teaching of Mother Sharda Devi? If it has hurt her, the great concert of Avatara, Mother Sharda Devi, Divine Mother, Sri Ramakrishna placed that indescribable, infinite bliss in her heart. And even that criticism about her husband as paining her, then as I told you, what will be happening to the ordinary people? They will be still more pained and suffering. It is as good as committing the greatest of the sin, murder. That's why the word used is character assassination. The term used is character assassination. When we speak of ill of others, we are assassinating them. We're killing them. We are getting the sin of killing them. So much murder, that sin of murder will be coming upon us. So be careful while spreading ill of others, talking ill of others. So then why is this? Is there any something a little logical which we can understand? Yes. Why did Mother Sharda Devi tell us, my child, if you want peace of mind, please do not find fault in others. Nobody is a stranger. The whole world is your own. Why did she tell that? What is the theory behind it? What is the philosophy behind it? Yes, we all know that Mother Sharda Devi used to tell that don't find fault in others. But her, Sharda Devi's teacher, Ramakrishna, what would he tell about this, finding fault? Ramakrishna in gospel, you find that he goes still further extent in telling that don't find fault even in a microbe, let alone human beings. Even in a microbe, do not find fault in others. He told this to Hazra. We had a special character in Dakshineshwar. After this Haladari and Hriday left, there became another character called Hazra. So he had that character had this fault-finding tendency, and so many other peculiarities were there. One of that worst character of that person was fault-finding. Always fault-finding in God and everybody. He used to find fault even in Ramakrishna also. So such was his nature. He kept that. So he used to see fault in everybody. So Ramakrishna one day told him, Hazara, don't find fault in even a microbe. Why? Yeah. Then another place in Gospel, Sri Ramakrishna tells this story. We all know that story of Prahlada, but we do not connect it to our life. We just hear it as a life and just keep quiet. Oh, that story is wonderful, but we never connect it to life. Here, Sri Ramakrishna connects this to our life. How does he? What happened? Ramakrishna tells what happened to Prahlada. He was a great devotee of Narayana. He was always praying and worshipping Narayana. His father was a demon. Hiranyakashipu didn't like that. He hated. He was the enemy of Lord Narayana. So he tried to, because he was very angry, his son would not give up the devotion to Narayana. He tried to kill that young child of 7 or 8. Constantly he tried to kill him. He told his soldiers and other servants to poison him. Then he tried to make those snakes bite him. He tried to drop him from the cliff of the mountain and kill him, then drown in the ocean. He tried to put him in the fire, Holika, that she came and tried to put him in the fire. So every time he was protected because of his devotion to Lord Narayana. Lord Narayana would personally come and protect him all the time. So many ways tried to kill him in the form of the elephant, trample him under the elephant, then beat him. The soldiers tried to beat him with the mace and kill him, cut him into pieces, put him in fire, whatever. Nobody could kill him because of his devotion to the Lord Narayana. Narayana would personally come and protect him. Then what happened? Finally, when it went to the too much of an extent to the pain in the devotee, then Lord took the form of a lion man, Narasimha, and broke up. He came from that pillar. His father had so many boons that should not die this way, that way, to all nullify that. He took this peculiar form of Narasimha. Then he killed him. We all know that. So he was very angry. That Narasimha was in a very great state of anger because his devotee Prahlada, that child, was troubled. Then even the gods, the demigods, the Indra, Chandra, Vayu, Varuna were so afraid to approach Narayana in that fierce mood. They couldn't withstand that anger. Why alone? They asked, requested Lakshmi, the consort. She was also afraid to go approach Narasimha because of that anger. Then they all thought, why did he take this form of anger? To protect his devotee, the small child. That is the only place you can see that the Lord has taken such a big avatar. He came down running to save just one child. All the others, avatara was for doing good to the humanity and so many other doing good to the world, universe. But here is the place where the Lord has taken this peculiar form of lion man, Narasimha, only to save one child devotee. Such was the devotion of that child. What happened? So let us send this boy to Narasimha, then his anger will come down. They requested Prahlada, child Prahlada, to go there. He doesn't fear at all. He loves the Lord so much. He just went praising, doing the Namasmarana, Gudagana, Stotra of Lord Narayana and went there. The boy went there to Narayana. So seeing that boy immediately, just like the animal, what will the cow do when it sees the calf? What will the mother do when it sees the child? Whatever she may be in a very bad mood. She may be very angry. And immediately if she sees the child crawling there, all her anger will vanish. And she will go lift the child and she'll cuddle. Then she will start fondling the child and showing that love. Human beings show love in a different way, but now the Lord has taken the form of a lion. How will the animal show its love to the young ones? Ramakrishna tells the great Lord Narasimha, the lion man, started licking the body. That is the way how the lions show their love towards the cubs. So Lord Narasimha started licking the body of Prahlada, putting him on his lap and asking, my dear child, you have taken so much of difficulty for me. Ask me of a boon. Ask a boon. And the child of 8 or 9 at that time told, oh Lord, I don't want any boon. I have got you. You are my Lord. pranasya prana. You are greater than my life. So I have got you. Then what do I want? I don't have any desire. I don't want any boon. But yet the Lord forced him. Oh Prahlada, no, you have to take the boon. In future, people, the devotees may ask. The child took so much of difficulty to attain, to get that Lord. What did the Lord reward him? The worldly people may ask, just at least to please those worldly people, I have to give you a boon, though you may not require it. To please them, at least take a boon. Please ask me a boon. The Lord pleaded with Prahlada, please ask me. He's telling, no, I don't want, Lord. I've got you more than enough. But the Lord, no, ask boon. Okay, if you are so insistent of asking me a boon, then Prahlada told, then, oh Lord, can you imagine what it would? Forgive my father. Give him Satgati. Forgive my father. Father had tortured him, almost killed him. Every time he attempted to kill him, tortured him incessantly. But this boy of 8 or 9 forgot everything and told, please forgive my father. Please give him Satgati because he is now killed by you. Give him Satgati, his higher state in that Loka, Mukti, liberation. Then Narasimha told, because he was your father, he has already got Sadgati. Don't worry about that. Now ask for your personal thing, selfish, some boons you ask for yourself. Then Prahlada told, I don't want. No, you have to ask. Then Prahlada told, okay, if you want to give me a boon, then so many people tried to harm me. They hit me in the mace, they tried to put me in the fire, they tried to poison me, they tried to make me, the snakes bite me, tried to drown me in the water, tried to throw me from the cliff and kill me, tried to put me in the fire. All those people who tried to harm me, please forgive them. Can you imagine boy of 8 or 9 telling that forgive all the people? Lord Narasimha could understand the heart of that boy, but he feigned ignorance. He acted as if he is ignorant. Why? So that we all can know what is in the heart of Prahlad. Otherwise, it will be gone. It will be lost to us. So the Lord acted as if he is ignorant to bring out the truth from the heart of that boy. Then he told, what is this Prahlada you are telling to forgive all of those people? Why did I take this peculiar form, neither a man nor a lion, and come down to this earth and all those things, do all these things to punish the people who troubled you? I wanted to kill them. That you were troubling the good people. So I took all these peculiar form, took all the pains and come here and you are telling to forgive them. Then why on earth should I have taken this form? And immediately that boy, child Prahlada, when the Lord acted like that, he told, my dear Lord, now all the people who tried to kill me, they tried to poison me, they tried to hit the mace, they tried to put me into the cliff, throw me from the cliff, drown in the water, put me in the fire, hit in the mace, elephant trample, all those people who was present, who is present, who will be present in their heart always, and inspired them to do this. In all the living beings, you, Narayana, exist. So if anybody is doing anything, it is because of your strength. And there is a saying, we all know that Tena Vinatranamapi Nachalati, without the Lord's grace, not even a blade of grass will move. Then will all these happen, all those killing and trying to do all that without your will? Everything happens due to the will of the Lord. And even in all those people who tried to trouble me, it is you who were there in their heart and inspired them to do. And suppose I ask punishment to them, who will get that punishment? You, Lord Narayana, who exists in all them. You are more dearer to me than my life. Pranasya pranaha, even greater than my life. If I ask punishment to all those people who try to torture me and trouble me, then whom will that punishment go to? To you. My Lord, my Ishtadevata, Narayana, can I expect bad thing to my Lord? Can I ask punishment to you only? If I ask punishment to those people, I'll be asking punishment to you. I love you so much, O Lord. So please forgive me. So Ramakrishna tells this story. Tells, don't find fault in even in a kribikita. even in a microbe, even in a virus or a bacteria. Why? Because in every living being is He, the Lord Narayana, who exists, the Lord Shiva, the Mother Durga, Ganapati, Kartikeya, whatever you want. In every living being, the same Lord Narayana who exists. If you find fault in any living being, if you speak ill of others, whom are you troubling? Whom are you torturing? It's the Lord. You are not torturing that person. That person is only, the external thing is only a, which harmed you is a bundle of character. But the reality within is Narayana, the Atma Swarupa, Parabrahma Swarupa. So you're troubling the Lord by doing that. So now you came to know why you are sharing the sin, if you are finding fault in others, if you speak ill of others, why you are getting that sin. Why did Ramana Maharshi tell that story? Now you have come. On the contrary, if this is a negative aspect, what is a positive aspect? If you serve, if you speak lovingly, if you give love, if you share good things, if you try to help them, try to get liberation, whom are you serving? Serving the Lord directly. You are serving the Lord directly. How can you serve the Lord? The Lord doesn't have a body. He's formless. The Lord is formless. The Lord is everywhere. Sarvam Vyapi. Antaryamin. The Lord is everywhere. The Lord doesn't have attributes. Highest Parabrahma. How can you serve Him? By serving His children. Because He exists in all the living beings. He's Antaryamin. So that is the only way you can serve the Lord. How can you serve the Lord? By serving the living beings. How will you trouble and torture the Lord? By criticizing and causing pain to them. So should you do that? What should you do? What's your duty? To serve the Lord. How will you do that? By serving the living beings. That is the message of Sri Ramakrishna to all of us. How we can reach the highest. Wonderful practical Vedanta. Isn't it? What a wonderful thing we have learned today. So, Mother Sharda Devi is showing that if she, the Divine Mother, can feel the pain, so much of intense pain, by the criticism, by the rumors the people are spreading, then what about ordinary people? So how much sins we are committing? How much is the pain? So should we not avoid this Vishaya, Ananda, by finding fault and spreading rumors? Let us stop. Otherwise, that's why the word if you want peace of mind. Don't want peace of mind, you want to suffer, please continue. So we will stop our discussion today because we have already exceeded our time. So now the fast approaching, that is 10th is the seminar on removal of stress and anxiety. So we are conducting a seminar on Dr. Usha Vastari, who has done her PhD and postdoctorate in neuroscience. She's bringing that knowledge from USA to all our doorsteps. We will participate in that. Please register your name if you have not registered and participate in that seminar. It's free of cost and also it's online. You can participate in from your own houses and you can also share with other people who are interested and help them also remove their stress. So we'll meet again to discuss the same topic, the Great Master, tomorrow. Now it's the time for question and answer. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can now ask. Any doubts, any questions?
Pranam Maharaj.
Yes, Madhusudan.
Yeah, Maharaj, you told about not to, I think, relive those sins committed by others or sins committed by ourselves, our own self. But in order to repent the sins we have committed, we have to relive those moments. Even if you have to repent,
that will not be, no, that will not be reliving. It is not even repentance. You are opening your heart to God, telling that I have not come, I have done these things. See that you don't make me do that again. You are repentant, you cry, you shed tears for that and ask forgiveness from God. That is not reliving. but rather that's what mother has told, not to find fault. She's telling only you don't find fault in others, but if you have the tendency to find fault within yourself. That's what she told. You have to find fault, not to just relive it and think and worry about it, but to repent and ask forgiveness of God and telling that I will not commit it again. So that is not reliving. You are washing it off. That's all.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay, if there are no questions, no doubts, we shall end the session by prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha Sarvayagneswaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Predite Preditam Jagat Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.